Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome officially to the channel. This is, as you know from the intro, a series where I go into odd game accessories or peripherals the developers made to help us get more into the game mentally or physically. Today, well, I have something that doesn't really help you get into the game so much as something you take fishing. Yeah, you heard me, fishing. And I don't mean fishing in a video game, I mean real fishing. What would you say if I told you that the Game Boy had a sonar attachment? No, I'm not kidding. There was a real live sonar attachment for the Game Boy. So if you have a minute, sit back and hang out a while as we look at the Game Boy Pocket Sonar. Before we dive too deep into this, get it? Let's take a look at how sonar even works. Now, sonar comes in two types, active and passive sonar. They work much the same way you would think, with passive sonar simply listening for noises under the water surface. It's generally used to detect objects like submarines, ships, and yes, even marine life. Keep in mind that this is passive, meaning it only listens. It doesn't send any signals out. As such, it's not possible to do things like judge the range of an object unless it's used in conjunction with multiple other passive listening devices. In those cases, it can then triangulate based off the three in the location of the object in space. Basically triangulating like you would a cell phone or something like that. The reason this is often used is to be able to tell if an object is there without potentially giving away your location. Think of it like listening carefully to someone calling out to you. If you listen carefully and follow the voice, you can find them without saying anything, without them necessarily knowing you're there. Now, active sonar works by actively sending out a signal into the water. Once the signal hits an object, the device listens for the return echo. How long the echo takes to reach the sonar buoy back is used by the device to tell the range of the object from the sonar source itself. This type of sonar is often used in commercial devices like rangefinders that are used to tell anything from how deep water is itself, for larger vessels so they don't beach themselves, and by fishermen looking to have an edge on the competition and locating, well, fish. This is where our particular device comes in. Developed by Bandai in 1998, this was one of the earliest and, well, maybe the only device ever made for a game system that was used for fishing. How this worked was, well, pretty simple. You hooked the main device into the Game Boy slot itself and it would use the Game Boy's rangefinder display. The device itself couldn't actually run off the Game Boy, it didn't have enough power, so you'd have to supply 4 AA batteries to the unit itself. Once you did that, you plugged the end of the cable into the top of the unit. Now all you had to do was unwind the device from the cable management system, which was a small piece of plastic you could wrap the cable around and then store the sonar buoy on it. Trust me, you wanted this thing because this cable was long. You then threw the buoy into the water, which had foam wrapped around it, and it would bob like, well, a bobber, and send out an active sonar pulse, then listen for the return that it would show up on your Game Boy display. I know what you're thinking though, wouldn't you risk dropping your Game Boy in the water? Well, Bandai thought of this too. Included with the setup was a small clear plastic pouch that you could put the Game Boy into, which the case itself actually had some nylon rope on either side so that you could hang that around your neck. It's a simple yet effective solution to what could be a major disaster waiting to happen. I know what some of you are going to say though. Why on earth would you buy something for your Game Boy that didn't come with any games? Well, it did actually, and no, I'm not kidding. You could actually slide the sonar system into your Game Boy, hopefully without the batteries, because my God, would that make the Game Boy far more awkward and heavy than it would ever have to be. Once you did that, you could play a small fishing game. Yep, if you weren't actively fishing, you could boot up this simple little game which came included with the system. In this you had a fishing boat with multiple lines all tied off at different depths. To play, you moved your little guy back and forth waiting on the fish, and when they were on your line, you hooked them just as easy as that. Yeah, I mean, it's a rather simple game, but it's also a very cute game and a nice addition to something that, quite frankly, really only have practical applications for the most part. This device, however, was only ever really released in Japan, at least to my knowledge, and never made it stateside at all. What do you guys think of this thing, though? Are any of you a fan of this little oddity? Did any of you ever import one of these from Japan? If so, how well did it work? Did you know any of the other odd accessories or anything else for other handhelds that you'd like me to take a look at? Let me know in the comments. For now though, I'd like to thank you so much for making it this far in the video. And for spending part of your day with me, I really do appreciate it. If I could ask you for one more favor, please leave this video a like. And if you haven't, consider subscribing. That always helps me out a ton. Until next time though, I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy gaming!